G'day, welcome back to RC Model Reviews, and I've got some goggles on the bench today. Goggles I've been using and goggles I'm going to be using. These are analog goggles, not digital, but you could use them with the new SharkBite FPV digital system from Fatshark. So buying a set of these doesn't mean you're out of the digital ballpark. It means you've just got one option. Well, you got two options. If you buy analog goggles, you've got the option of flying analog and flying digital in the form of the SharkBite, Shark, I don't know what it is, the Fatshark digital system, which I will be reviewing comprehensively on this channel very shortly. Anyway, these are the goggles I'm looking at. Now, these are the goggles I've been using for, I don't know how long, since, I don't know, ages. I started with Fatshark goggles, then I went to Skyzones, and I used Skyzones for a very, very, very long time. They were the old black ones, you know, no DVR, nothing. Love those goggles, 16:9 view, not a particularly large field of view, but they just worked and worked and worked and worked. And then I got a set of Aomways, which had a DVR, and they worked too. And now I've gone back to Skyzones because the Skyzone OLED offerings are just really, really good. I mean, I've got to say, I actually enjoy the quality, the colors, the vibrancy, the dynamic range of the analog signal wearing a set of OLEDs more than the Fatshark, sorry, more than the DJI digital system. DJI's got wonderful sharpness and resolution and all that sort of stuff, and it blows you away with massive field of view, but nothing beats the color rendition and the dynamic range of a set of OLEDs. And the DJI, they're just LCDs. So a lot of people were hoping the new version 2s would be OLED, but they're not. They're just LCD still. So let's have a look. As I say, two sets of goggles. These are the Skyzone 030 or 030s or something. This was the first OLED goggles that they produced, and I've been using these and loving these every time I use them. These are the newer ones. These are the 04X, and these are like those, but they're different, and they're different in a number of ways. Some ways they're better, some ways I'm not sure they're better. So let's take a bit of a comparison, take a bit of a look. What are these? They are analog FPV goggles, which will receive on 5.8 gigahertz, and they have a 4:3 aspect ratio by default, which means the displays are 4:3. But if you want to go 16:9, they will display 16:9. It's just that you won't be using the whole display. So you lose a little bit. You're paying for pixels you're not going to be using. So stick with 4:3, trust me. It's just easier, especially if you're flying proximity, because it's nice. When you go to 16:9, you don't gain width, you just lose height. And you can't have too much field of view. So 4:3 for proximity, brilliant, fantastic. It's what I missed with my Skyzones. They were 16:9. Not my Skyzones, my Aomways. They were 16:9. These are 4:3. I love 4:3. Anyway. Oh, I digress. These look pretty similar, don't they? They're white. They said, which color do you want? I said white, because it basically, it does show the blood, but it doesn't melt in the sun. And it's so hot today. It's 29 degrees here, 29 degrees Celsius. I think that's like a little bit less than the surface of the sun in terms of Fahrenheit, but it's quite warm. So anything other than white outside today would just melt. It just gets so hot, it's ridiculous. So white is the color of choice for my FPV goggles. They do have other colors. I think you've got red and blue and all sorts, but yeah, no, white. Color of a virgin, that's me. Right, so there we go. This is the earlier set. I have the camera on there, which I did use for a while, but after a while you just don't need it because you just organize yourself. And because one of the beauties of these, I love these because these just plop onto your face. Now with my Aomways, I had to spend about 10 seconds getting them in the right place so that everything lined up and getting everything, and fiddling with the IPDs. These, just pop them on your face and away you go. So it's easy just to pop them up on your forehead, sort yourself out, drop them on your face and fly. So you don't really need a camera once you've got some of these goggles, because look at the padding on this. Now I've reviewed the 030s before. There's a review on this channel. You hunt for it. I'm not going to find it. Hunt for it. Hopefully you find some other stuff you watch as well. Got these lovely cushioned sort of imitation leather, padded leather things, and these are brilliant at not only comfortable, but they also block out the light very, very well. No light leakage on these goggles. And got a fan, got some buttons, got diversity. Initially they had this stupid color bar here, but fortunately they dropped that. They had that on this one. This was the 03S or something, I'm not sure. Anyway, it was a gimmick, it was a waste of time. I said that when I reviewed those. These work brilliantly. Got IPD adjustments underneath. They've got DC barrel jack. They've got a power switch. Look, a power switch. And head tracker output, HDMI input. So if you're going to use your SharkBite digital system or your Fatshark, whatever, plug it in there, away you go. AV in, USB, AV out, micro SD card, and headphones, because some people like to listen, and you can plug your earbud in there and away you go. So everything you want there. So why did Fatshark, why did Skyzone even bother making a new set of goggles if these things are so damn good? Well, I'll tell you what they've done with these ones. Now, if we take a gander in the business end, you'll see that the ones on the bottom, which are my old ones, have got square holes, and these have got round holes. How about that? What a fantastic achievement and improvement that is. But it is actually, because these goggles, the optics are pretty good. They're pretty nice. The field of view's wide enough. It's not the widest, but it's wide enough. The problem is there is a little bit of barrel distortion, the vertical size. You get a little bit of curvature in them. And that, you never notice it when you're flying. But if you look really hard, you'll see it, okay? And this has fixed focus. So if you need corrective lenses, you've got to put diopters in here, get these little plastic things, slide them in to account for your focal length if you see blurry through here. What they've done with the new ones, the 04Xs, is what Fatshark did with theirs, and which I must admit some of the other Chinese manufacturers have done. They put a focus, individual eye focus. So you can vary the position of the lens with these little twirly knobs here and focus each eye individually, which is fantastic because you don't need diopters. Unless you've got really mild eyes that are really, really way out, you won't need diopters with these. Brilliant. And as you age like me and your eyes get worse, you can just keep turning it up until you burn a hole in your eyeballs. Brilliant. They also have IPD, of course. The IPD adjustments are in the front there. Same connectors as the other one. Everything's there, except I noticed that the head tracker out is now a 3mm jack and not a, a DIN type connector on that one. It's gone to that. There you go. They do provide cables for these things in the box. I'm not going to show you all the stuff that came with it, but basically you get a cable to plug in the AV, which will plug into a separate base unit with the RCA connectors, and you get a 2.1mm barrel connector for the power with an XT60, and you get an I think you get a USB lead as well, which is quite good. USB-C on this one, micro USB on the old one. So they're moving with the times. They're getting with the program. So there you go. Now, wearing these, the field of view is bigger. I love a big field of view. I mean, it's always a trade-off. I've mentioned this before in reviews. If you like a really immersive experience, then you go for a large field of view. The downside is everything looks a bit more fuzzy because you've magnified everything. So given the limitations of analog and the resolution, things will look a bit softer through a wide field of view. And I noticed the difference between this and this, things look sharper but smaller in this one. They look bigger but slightly less sharp in this one, despite the fact you can focus things. I don't care. I love the immersive experience. I soon forget the fact that this isn't pin sharp because my field of view, this has got pretty much the same field of view as far as I can see as the DJI digital system, which is a really big field of view, 46 degrees diagonal, I think, which is heaps. You get too big, it becomes distracting. You can't see the whole image at once. You end up looking around the screen. And I noticed that I've had FPV goggles where the image was too big. It was simply too big. And you did end up your eyes were moving all the time, trying to see what's in the corner of the screen. This is the perfect compromise. I think this is the best field of view I've used. 46 degrees, fantastic, brilliant. Now, coming to the front here, we've got these antennas. Now, one thing, so that's something I like. The optics are brilliant, fantastic. Field of view, brilliant, I love it. On the front, I'm not so impressed with the changes. Now, with the old ones, we've got diversity, and we've got an antenna connector here, and an antenna connector there. If you look at the angle of the antenna as it comes out, if we just have a straight antenna, it's not hard to bend that round to face the front. So that basically the antenna's pointing, imagine this was a patch. The antenna's pointing where you're pointing, and directional antennas need to point where your model is. So that's real easy on there. But on these ones, they've gone for the Fatshark style module on the side. And unfortunately, that means the angle of these, if I put that straight, and we'll just compare the angles of the straight angles on things here, so you can see, because I'll put it on the other side. Hang on a moment. I should cut this out, but can't be bothered. Here we go. I'm changing the antenna to the other side. Let's just compare the angles at which the antennas come out of the goggles, and you will see there is a marked, let me get these lined up, there's a marked difference in the angles, which means that if you want your patch to face forward on this, you've really got to crank around it, and it won't come all the way around anyway. It's going to keep pointing out to the side rather than the front. I find that annoying. Another thing that is, perhaps from an RF perspective, even more annoying, is that antennas like this, these are tuned to 5.8 gigahertz. That's the frequency we use. And when you have one tuned element in close proximity to another tuned element, they interact. Basically, it's like if you have two wine glasses and you ping one and you hold another one nearby, the other one will vibrate as well because there's sympathetic resonance. That's what you're going to get here. These antennas are so close that they're going to affect the radiation pattern of each other. So you're not going to get anywhere near as ideal a radiation pattern as you do with two more spaced antennas. Now, in reality, is it going to make a difference? I don't think it really will for most people. If you're trying to go ultra long distance, it may have an effect. But it's just something I would rather have seen them keep the existing layout. But the reason they've gone with this layout here is because if you look carefully on the other side, there's another module bay, and you can throw your rapid fire or your Foxia or whatever module in there if you don't want to use that one. Previously, people have been using a number of add-on modules with these. They've just been basically gluing them or 3D printing a little adapter, then running a lead around into the AV and doing it that way. It's a bit of a bodge, and I don't know, these work fine for me. This way, you can put it in there. You can't use both at once. You can't have quad diversity. You have to choose that one or the third-party one. And if you've already got a module and you find it's great and you think rapid fire works better than this, then you can throw your rapid fire in there and away you go. You'll be happy as Larry. The difference being that you can't adjust the frequencies and anything. You can't get the status messages from the third-party module in the same way you can from the built-in module. Now, the thing is that this built-in module has diversity, and it has something similar to rapid fire and things where it merges the two signals so that basically on a line-by-line basis it chooses the best signal rather than a frame-by-frame basis. And that's supposed to give you better results. I didn't notice much difference, and I've had about 10 or 12 flights on these goggles now, and on one flight I had to land because the picture went really crazy. It was in the mixed mode, they call it, which is their special mixing both inputs mode, and it just went really dark and broke up. The image went really dark and broke up, and I couldn't fly, so I had to dump the quad, go and pick it up, bring it back. I switched to diversity mode. That hasn't happened again. So I'm wondering if that was just a weirdo thing. They do say that if you have problems with the mixed mode, switch to diversity mode. Maybe the camera I'm using is not fully compatible with the mixed mode. I don't know. But the beauty is you've got a choice. And in diversity mode, this works damn well. So I don't know that I'll bother going back to the mixed mode. It doesn't seem to offer me any particular advantages, so I'll just stick with the diversity mode, in which case I'd love to have seen the two antenna positions back there, but hey-ho, they're not. Have to live with it. Now, another difference with these goggles is the way you control the menus and things. On the earlier ones, you had a button for the head tracker, a button for channel select, button for band, a button for your mode, a button to start your DVR, and a button to scan the channels and things. So it was like lots of buttons, and it's really easy to push the wrong button and bang a button when you're putting the goggles on. This is a problem. They've solved that quite well by putting a couple of little whirly wheels. Hear this? I'll hold up the mic. See that? The little whirly wheels we're seeing on transmitters these days. Unlike some transmitters, these whirly wheels are actually quite good. These rotary encoders seem to work really well. And these enable you to select menus and make adjustments very, very easily, much more easily than these buttons here did. So I'm happy with the user interface. And recording, it's just a simple start, stop button there. And this is a mode button, which calls up a menu up here. And you can select channels with this whirly wheel. You can do a search. You can do all sorts of things. And that, good on your Skyzone for saying, don't rely on the results of a search. Always check that your video goggles are switched to the same frequency as your video transmitter, because as everybody knows, it's so easy to do a scan and think you've got the right channel and take off, and 100 yards away, it all turns to snow and you crash because scan just isn't reliable. But it's there if you need to. The time to use scan is not when you want to fly your own model, but if you want to go along for a passenger ride on someone else and you don't know what channel on, just hit scan. It'll find a channel that's good enough and you can watch from there. But don't use scan if you plan to use your goggles for controlling a model. It's not a good idea. Okay, now the million-dollar question that everybody's going to be asking right now is, should I invest my money in a set of analog goggles? Surely digital is just around the corner, and these, I'll be buying some DJIs or something else, or maybe some Orcas with built-in digital, and analog will be dead. And my response is, no, it won't. Analog is far from dead. I have the Fatshark system, digital, FPV. I have the DJI system, digital, FPV, acknowledged leader in the field. And I have analog. And I just totaled up my hours for the last 3 months. 80% of my FPV flying was done analog. Why? Why? If digital's so much better, why am I still flying analog so much? And I'll tell you why. It's because it's more than just the quality of the image. It's more than just the amount of money you pay. It's an experience. And the one thing I like, now Pawel Spychalski, Pawel, I can never say his name. Anyway, he did a video recently, the 5 things he likes about analog FPV, and he missed one. Go and look at his video. I'll link it in the description of this, but he missed, for me, what is one of the most important reasons I like to continue flying analog. And that is because when I'm flying analog, I get to see the flight through these goggles. I get to see it in standard definition with sparkles of snow and next to no latency, and it's great. As a control and command system, analog is brilliant. Everything happens so quickly. There's no latency, there's no blockiness. It's just, you've either got a picture or you haven't. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. And I feel very confident flying analog. I can fly until I can barely see the scene through the snow, but I wouldn't dare fly digital to that level, because sometimes digital just goes off like that, just instantly disappears, and then you've got no picture at all. Analog's far more progressive in its decay, even compared to the Fatshark system. Analog just decays so more progressively that I'm happy to fly to the limits of my video link with analog far more than I am with digital. Anyway, so I go out there, I fly, I look through my goggles, I have a wonderful time, and then I go home. And when I get home, I take this SD card out of my HD recording camera and I put it on my computer and I fly. I relive the entire flight, this time in full HD, maybe even 4K. So I get to fly twice. For every flight, I get 2 versions. I get the live SD version, and then I get the recorded HD version. If you fly digital, you only get 1 version, and that's HD. You get it, that's what you fly, and that's what you see later. So I find with my DJI system, my digital FPV systems, I don't actually usually bother reviewing the recorded footage, unless something really strange has happened or I'm trying to get some footage for something in particular. If I'm just having a flight, I don't usually review the footage. I just erase the card and use it again. When I fly analog, I'm always reviewing the footage, because I see things in the digital footage I didn't notice when I was flying. It's brilliant, it's fun, adds an extra dimension to my flying, and I really enjoy. I get a great buzz out of watching my flight almost third person, because I'm no longer controlling the quad, but I can see what happened. It's brilliant, it's fantastic. It's one of the big reasons I still fly analog. So I would say to people, if you're looking at getting into it, if you're into FPV already, you've already got a set of analog goggles, should you upgrade? Well, I don't know, possibly, or you may just want to go to DJI. That's a choice you have to make. But if you're not in the hobby yet and you want to get into it now, and you think you might want to go racing, because let's face it, if you're going to race, there is no options. You have to have a set of analog goggles, because Fatshark system relies on goggles like this to work. So if you're going to be into quad racing, you just have to buy something, whether it be the Fatshark HDO2s or something like this. You've got to buy a set of analog goggles with an HDMI input. In which case, really do give these some serious consideration, because they are super kick-ass goggles. I don't have a set of HDO2s, but I do like the engineering of these. It's very nicely engineered. Everything fits. It's comfortable. It's just, it's hard to find anything to complain about. I've got a set of Fatshark goggles. They just don't seem as refined as this. I've got to say, they're just not as refined. And I have had a lot of experience with Skyzones. I've used them for many years. Right from the first version of Skyzones, I've been using Skyzones, and they've never let me down. I've never lost a model or had a problem because my goggles have failed in mid-flight or anything like that. And I've always been happy with the results. So I would say, if you're going to buy yourself a set of analog goggles, these have got to be high on your shopping list. Now, I must declare that these were sent to me for review. I did not pay for these, but I would pay for them if I had to, because I think they're that good. And there are no affiliate links in the description of this video. There's a link probably to where you can find details. I don't know if I find a link on the Skyzone Hobbies have a website. They probably do. I will put a non-affiliate link in the description of this video, so that if you decide to buy one, you get more information. But I'm not going to make a bean if you buy this. So there's no benefit to me in telling you these are good if they're not, because I don't make any money if you buy these. And I don't lose any money if you don't buy them. So I can be totally objective and say, these are my daily drive now. These are the goggles I'll be using probably for 80% of my FPV flying. And my probably more actually. No, it will be more than 80% now, because with the Fatshark digital system, I will probably be setting it up on this rather than the Fatshark goggles I've got, because the ones I've got are only HD2s, they're not OLEDs, and I just love the OLED experience. So I'll set up the SharkBite system on these. So these will probably account to well over 80% of my FPV flying. And if you want to see me flying with these, you can go to my XJet channel. From this point on, virtually all my FPV analog stuff will be done using these goggles. The DVR footage that you may see on that channel will appear from these goggles. You'll be able to see how often I use them. I will probably do some longer range flights with these, just to verify that this antenna setup isn't going to be too much of a pain in the backside. And so stay tuned. In the meantime, if you've got some questions, some comments, anything you'd like to say, go down to the questiony commenty bit that YouTube provides for that purpose and leave them there. I'll do my best to answer them. But yep, I see other reviewers have said that these are, top of the line. These, and I forget, there's also a set by our favourite, Chinese e-tailer. I think they have a set of goggles which are pretty much on par. I don't know, I don't have those, but I do have these, and these are the best analog FPV goggles I have ever used, and I will be using them a lot. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Patreon supporters. You make it possible for me to keep making these videos for you without having to worry about shillings for stuff and living off affiliate links. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.